Hey guys, Alex here, looking at my level 50 Vanguard because somebody was curious to see what my gear was, but I'm also going to look at my skill spread here for a second, so let's pull that up and take a look right now. It's 3182, it's a common tanking spec. You're going to see a lot of variations on this, but they're all going to be pretty much this point spread generally. The 2 points in Assault go into increasing the damage of Stock Strike, and that makes it a little bit more viable in our rotation. Now here in Tactics, I take increased armor penetration for high impact bolt because that's an important skill now in our rotation thanks to 1.3. And now here you have a choice. You can put points into increasing the crit chance of your elemental attacks, or you can reduce the cooldown of crowd grenade if you're really into crowd control. I use Ion Pulse a lot because of other skills, so I choose to put points in demolition. Up here, I take Blaster Augs. That's just a flat damage increase by 8% to our Ion Cell. It's useful when you use Hammer Shot, and there's going to be situations where you're just going to want to spam that first ability. I put points in Tactical Tools. There's a cooldown for Pulse Cannon, but the big cooldown is on Harpoon. It lets me control where my enemy is on the battlefield a little bit more. You can put points into Power Armor instead, though, if you want to be a little bit tankier. The Shield Tree, you don't put points here because you don't need the extra damage. You do put points here for the increased damage on elemental attacks. Remember, those are critting a bit higher now. And then Ion Pulse and Explosive Surge debuff our target's damage by 5% for 15 seconds. This skill here makes our Stock Strike apply a dot 100% of the time. This is just an increased aim buff, but that affects ranged damage and our defense for ranged a bit. Rebraced armor is essential. Most of our mitigation as a Vanguard really comes from our armor. Ion Cell here now snares our enemies whenever we use it. Shield Cycler's just there for some ammo regeneration in case our shield procs. Smoke Grenade's not the best cooldown, but you take it anyway because it can affect certain enemies. Ceramic Plating you skip because the way shield works in PvP, you can't really justify the cost even though you can reduce the cooldown on your self-heal. Moving up here, Static Shield increases the critical chance of Stock Strike and Explosive Surge. And then if you shield, you have a chance of finishing the cooldown on Stock Strike, which can be useful if your shield does proc, but the way shield works again in PvP, that's not guaranteed. This is just a flat damage reduction when you're running Ion Cell. Supercharged Ion Cell increases the damage of our dot, and then also anybody who's near the epicenter of our high impact bolt also gets the dot, so you can hit up to 5 people with that skill, so long as they're within 5 meters of your initial target. And it's also useful in PvE because it doesn't break people who are mezzed or CC'd. This just roots people who are caught with Stealth Scan. You don't put points in Charge, it's useless. You do keep Storm because it lets you move around the battlefield easier. And then you take this because it increases the damage of Explosive Surge, and it also grants you 2 free Explosive Surges whenever you use Charge. Power Screen makes our Energy Blast and Ion Pulse give us increased shield absorb. You can stack that up to 4 times. This is just an increased shield chance, and then I take the top skill for some ammo regeneration. So let's take a look at my gear here. I have a lot of points in my main stat. I modify that a lot because you get a lot of decent benefits, and diminishing returns don't really kick in too much. I'm max light side, that doesn't matter at all in PvP. It's just nice to know. I start off with combat tech for my helmet, for my hands, for my legs, and then down here for my boots. It gives me some critical that I need, and it's also a set bonus that I prefer. My chest piece is Super Commando though, because that makes me a little beefier. So now let's move around here and look at the augments I have and the rest of the things I have. I modify for main stat and endurance there. That makes me tankier, and it just gives me the benefits for my main stat skill. I have endurance and surge here. It's upping my HP, but it's also upping the damage I do on criticals. I have main stat and endurance here again. You can stack that one for a while without hitting diminishing returns. Endurance and surge here on my Super Commando belt. I have main stat and endurance again, and main stat and endurance again. Overall, it's pretty good. I have an Eliminator's Rifle for damage, and then main stat and endurance again to help me out. Like I said, you can stack those for a bit. Now I have endurance and power on my shield generator. That gives me bonus damage. You see here, I have fair bonus damage. It's not stellar, but it's pretty decent. And then my crit chance is like in the 30s, and my critical multiplier is augmented by these relics that I also put augments for surge in on both of them. Well, not on this one actually. I have shield rating and power. I want just a little bit better shield because my combat tech doesn't help me with that completely. This is my first piece of War Hero gear. It's shield and power as well. Like I said, I want a little bit of shield benefits from augments. I don't want to stack them too much though because of the way it works in PvP. This is endurance and power on my implant. This is shield rating and power. I'm stacking that up. This is actually power and defense. Now, the way that works is this. Defense is calculated first, so I want that to be a little higher. I wish it was closer to 15%, but I'll take whatever I can get. And then below that, my shield chance is like 40%ish, and then my damage reduction thanks to armor is around 50%. There you can see my shield chance again. And then my absorb for when I do manage to proc my shield is just shy of 25%, but I can augment that by using Ion Pulse. My critical chance is in the 30-ish range, but I get modifications to that, especially on Stock Strike, thanks to my set bonus. And then my critical multiplier is around 70. I wish it was closer to 75. To my understanding, though, Surge doesn't really hit diminishing returns until around 300. However, though, that's my gear. It's a pretty good spread, and it works out very well for me when I'm in a fight.